Welcome to episode 66 of Motivating Mondays, a weekly podcast and YouTube series dedicated to help Canadian job developers and other employer engagement professionals develop the tools, resources, skills, and network to excel at achieving sustainable employment outcomes for their clients or students. My name is Christian St. Cyr, National Director of the Canadian Job Development Network, and today we're going to take a closer look at the challenges faced by a large portion of job seekers, those who with mental health challenges and those with cognitive differences. Data draws our attention to the fact that both of these populations are significantly underrepresented in our labor market, and yet a tremendous source of talent for prospective employers. Now, I'm going to go through a lot of statistics in this presentation, but I will say if you'd like to get a listing of this information, it's all covered in this week's Job Development Pulse, and you can gather that by clicking on the Job Development Pulse at jobdevelopment.org. So, employment barriers for those with mental health challenges and cognitive differences are challenging, as these two are primary areas where the disabilities can be invisible to employers. And yet we see the employment outcomes for these individuals are considerably lower than individuals who do not have these challenges. In fact, employment outcomes for Canadians with mental health issues are significantly lower than the national average. Only 46% of adults with mental health-related disabilities are employed, compared to 80% of those without disabilities. Up to 90% of individuals with severe mental health illness remain unemployed, and yet they face high rates of long-term joblessness, according to Stats Canada. A higher proportion of people with mental health issues actively look for work but fail, approximately 12.2%, compared to the general population where it's only 8.6%, according to Future Skills Centre. While the Canadian employment rates hovered around 84% for those without conditions, the employment rate for those with cognitive differences is notably lower, about 76 to 77%. Research from the Labour Market Information Council reveals that over 90% of Canadian job postings require social-emotional skills that can unintentionally screen out neurodivergent candidates. Over 40% also contain complex application processes or confusing jargon. To help us better understand these challenges, the Future Skills Centre recently published Labour Market Experiences of Canadians with Mental Health Conditions and Cognitive Differences. So, to get a better understanding of these challenges, it's helpful to get technical definitions. So, according to the Canadian Psychological Association, a mental health condition refers to a psychological or emotional well-being specifically affecting mood, feelings, and behavior. A cognitive difference refers specifically to the brain's baseline ability to process information, including learning, reasoning, and memory. In developing the report, the Future Skills Centre hoped to better understand three questions. So the first question was, how do employment outcomes, job satisfaction, and financial outlooks differ between individuals with cognitive differences, those with mental health conditions, and those with no condition at all? Second question was, what role do workplace training and supports play in shaping job satisfaction and work experiences across these groups? And finally, how do broader economic pressures and workplace conditions, such as job security and automation concerns, influence labor market experiences? And the report does a really good job of exploring all three of these questions. In compiling the research, the authors came to three primary insights. Among participants ages 25 to 54 with a mental health condition, a higher proportion report looking for work but not finding it. That's that 12.2%, compared to those with cognitive differences, 5.7%, and those with no conditions, which was 8.6%. Employment outcomes are significantly lower for these populations. Among those 25 to 54, again, with no condition, 83.7% report being employed, compared to just 61.7% of those reporting a mental health condition and 76.4% of those reporting a cognitive difference. Long-term unemployment was also a significant factor in this population, particularly among women. Among those with mental health conditions, 84% of women report unemployment lasting 6 months or longer. That's what we would refer to as long-term unemployment, compared to just 62% of men. A similar pattern appears to be among those with cognitive differences, 80% of women versus 60% of men. Both the Canadian Mental Health Association and the Mental Health Commission of Canada have suggested key workplace accommodations that could significantly improve the employment outcomes for those with mental health challenges, as well as those with cognitive differences. These include flexible schedules, modifying start and end times, or allowing part-time hours to attend therapy or manage medication side effects. Modified workspaces, relocating workspace to a quieter area, allowing noise-canceling headphones, or reducing sensory overstimulation. Task adjustment, breaking large projects into smaller milestones, adjusting deadlines, or altering non-essential duties. Leave and time off, utilizing short-term medical leave, sick days, or leave under the Employment Insurance Sickness Benefit Program. Employers can also play a significant role in supporting workers with mental health challenges and cognitive differences. Stakeholders argue that legitimate support goes beyond basic legal requirements and spans proactive programs embedded in Canadian workplaces. So what are these programs? Well, for instance, employee assistance programs. Most medium to large employers offer confidential short-term counseling or crisis support for employees and their families. Mental health first aid. Many organizations train peers and managers through the Mental Health Commission of Canada to identify and respond to emotional distress. There's psychological health and safety. Organizations are increasingly adopting the national standard for psychological health and safety in the workplace to actively reduce stigma and reduce burnout. Supporting workers with cognitive differences in Canada requires a combination of targeted pre-employment training, specialized workplace accommodations, and access to national and provincial funding programs. Employers and job seekers alike benefit from specialized initiatives that prioritize skills matching, job coaching, and career retention. Whether it's an invisible disability such as a mental health challenge, cognitive difference, chronic pain, or an apparent challenge such as mobility, visual impairment, or auditory impairment, it's often a lack of understanding that prevents employers from hiring individuals. Without a full understanding of the challenges, and certainly not with a full understanding of the strengths, employers will often not hire the candidate that will tend to gravitate to hire the candidate that doesn't have the disability. We all know that there's a multitude of factors that result in success or failure in the workplace, and it's unfortunate that so many employers limit it to just one factor. More than half of workplace modifications in Canada cost $0, and 80% cost less than $500. For the roughly 37% of cases that do require a direct one-time purchase, the average cost for a specific modification in Canada is approximately $500, according to data provided by the Government of Canada. And in many cases, funding is available to take care of these costs. In my experience, nothing convinces an employer about the value of hiring an employee with a disability than having hired an employee with a disability. And while this might sound like a catch-22, it really speaks to our need to put a personal face and experience on job development. If we can help create personal interactions through job fairs, informational interviews, mentorship, workplace tours, we can give our clients with disabilities an opportunity to present themselves as just more than their disability. By the way, if you've been attending these things for a while, we've been publishing the BC and the Ontario labor market reports for years. We'd love for you to become members. But we also have labor market reports for Alberta, the Prairies, and Atlantic Canada. And all of these have links at jobdevelopment.org. And there's a tab for each labor market report. We'd love to have you join. Just go to jobdevelopment.org to learn more information. I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. These sessions are available on YouTube and most podcast platforms. Just search for Motivating Mondays wherever you download podcasts. And please like or share our podcasts and YouTube videos. It helps us bring this information to other career professionals in Canada. We also do these sessions live and for free every Monday morning on Microsoft Teams. We have job developers joining us from all across Canada. It'd be so great if you could join us. Go to jobdevelopment.org to learn more. And if you have any questions, send me an email. My email address is cstcyr@labormarketsolutions.ca. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have an amazing week.